Franco, obviously just coming off your best ever Grand Prix result last time out in Miami. I mean, first off, do you kind of feel like you're operating at your best level so far with the team, and how confident are you in replicating something like that this weekend?
Yeah, I think we are generally just going race by race, and we had a really strong weekend in Miami since the start, and it's been also a sprint weekend, track that I didn't know. It's been a weekend of improvements, but generally really strong since the start, which is quite important and something we were not clicking right in the previous races, and it made the whole weekend much easier. So I think, yeah, I'm confident that we can keep it going. Of course, we need to understand where we are and compared to the other teams, and what the upgrades are of the teams who are competing against the most, because the evolution race is on now, and every team is bringing big things every weekend. So yeah, we need to wait and see, but hopefully it's a good track for us as well.
A very warm welcome back, everybody, to Group 2 of our drivers' press conference here in Montreal. As you can see from left to right, we're joined by Pierre Gasly, George Russell and Arvid Lindblad. Very warm welcome to you all. Pierre, why don't we start with you today? Now, you've done more driving than most since Miami, both at Paul Ricard and Magny-Cours. How was it to be back behind the wheel at two iconic French racetracks?
Yeah, I kind of forgot about it already, to be fair. I went to Castellet, flew from Castellet to Magny-Cours, and had 2 days testing in Magny-Cours. So it was pretty cool. Obviously, like mainly, in Castellet, being around the French fans, motorsport fans, very special weekend. Seeing a lot of like old F1 cars, getting a few laps in like a 1979 Renault turbocharged car, which felt pretty amazing and just made me realize how much our sport has evolved over time, and it's almost like a complete different sport these days. And then it was good to get in Magny-Cours. Interesting track. It was my first ever time. And we're just talking about the fact that we're not doing any driving so far. We're end of May and we've done only 4 races, and just eager to get some more action on track.
Well, the Pirelli wet tyre test at Magny-Cours could prove useful this weekend, given the weather forecast. How was the car in the wet?
You guys are going to be shocked. I'm glad I've done these 2 days because, it's going to be interesting for you guys, yeah. I've had Silverstone 20th of January, which was memorable, and I think will stay, with me forever. But Magny-Cours was also something. So,
yeah, what is it? Is it the torque? What makes it so challenging?
You don't want me to answer that question, so.
Okay. Well, look, let's talk about on-track performance here in Montreal, assuming it is dry, because you said in Miami that you weren't totally happy with your car. Do you feel you've made any progress? I know you've been on the sim back in Enstone. Yeah,
so we've had good learnings from Miami. I think we're coming here with more answers, still a few things to try in FP1 to, fully understand the stuff we've put on the car at the last race. But I'm confident we've made the step forward we needed. And then generally, I think the pace was good in Miami. We've seen both cars in Q3s managed to P8 in the sprint. Franco managed to finish P7 in the race. So I think there's a great momentum happening. And we just got to keep pushing and still try to get even more out of ourselves here.
And do you think the track layout here in Montreal will suit your car?
I don't know, but I'm confident we got a good baseline to fight for the points. And Miami was we were a little surprised with the gaps, which seemed to have spread a tiny bit more, and we seem to be quite clear of the midfield there. Hopefully it's going to be the case this weekend, but we'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah, final one from me. Did you follow Max's attempt at the Nürburgring 24 hours? If you did, what did you make of it?
It was hard not to follow it, to be fair. And I found it pretty cool. I think I respect, the performance, the commitment. I love to do the race as well, and actually, compete in the same way. And I thought it was very unlucky. Obviously, just show the level at which he is at the moment. And I had no surprise to see him very competitive in in that category and in that field. So yeah, there've been a couple great highlights, all over social media and stuff like that. And I thought it was really cool. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. Best of luck this weekend. George, on to you. Pierre would like to do Nürburgring 24. How about you?
Yeah, definitely one day, to be honest. Like Pierre said, watching Max at the weekend was pretty cool to see. I've followed the race in the past, and those 24-hour races there, Bathurst as well, they're just brutal races. And, all of us are in a slightly different position to Max. Obviously, we're also pursuing to win a world championship, but obviously he's in a luxurious position to do what he enjoys. And that's great for him, and he did a great job.
All right, well, let's bring it on to here now. Your last year's winner here in Montreal. You've always gone well at this track. How much are you looking forward to getting out on track?
Like Pierre said, I mean, we're end of May, we've done 4 races, and it's felt very disjointed so far this year. So just looking forward to getting into just going racing and more races back to back, getting into a bit of a groove. Miami was obviously a very tough weekend for me, but a huge amount learned from that, and I feel great coming into this weekend.
What was the biggest learning from Miami?
Well, I think for a lot of us, we're also focused on the energy management, that all of the issues from the past, dealing with the tyres, dealing with the setup, just fundamentals of racing has kind of been put on the back burner because we're also focused on energy management. So, we missed some key things because we were focused elsewhere, and that was a good little reminder. So, as I said, as painful as it was a very much needed weekend, because I think it's going to prove very beneficial for the rest of the year.
Now, everyone's interested to see Mercedes' first big upgrade of this season. What are you expecting from it?
Well, I'm hoping it's going to be, as competitive as what we saw the upgrades of McLaren and Ferrari brought in Miami. They obviously took a decent step forward. Our numbers, our numbers look pretty promising, but we know it doesn't often, it may not correlate that way in reality. So there's no science telling us it won't be competitive, but as I said, until we drive it on track, there's always going to be a few unknowns.
Right. Final one from me. You spoke about everyone's focus on the power unit. Just can I bring you onto that and your thoughts on the 6 megajoule recharge limit in qualifying? The lowest of the season so far. How will it affect you in the cockpit?
I don't think it'll affect a lot, to be honest. I think it's the right decision. Seeing the simulations, it doesn't look like we're losing speed at the end of the straights. There shouldn't be any quirks in terms of lifting, coasting during the lap. So, definitely the right direction, and I think it should be more straightforward here.
All right. Best of luck to you. Thank you for that. And Arvid, thank you for waiting. Your first Canadian Grand Prix. What are your impressions of the circuit, Gilles Villeneuve?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing track. I'm really looking forward to getting on track this week. I remember the famous 2011 race was one of the first races I watched as a kid. It was one of the ones that I sort of fell in love with the sport over. I still remember that very well. So to get the opportunity to drive this special track, I'm really looking forward to it.
Can you tell us a little more about your preparations? Because, of course, it's a sprint weekend. It's a tough track at which to come for the first time. When it is a sprint, what have you done to prepare?
Yeah, it will be a challenge. The reality of how this season's been, there's been quite a lot of sprints. I think it's 3 out the first 5 are going to be sprint races, so I'm getting a little bit used to it. But I think just a lot of work on the sim. That's the main tool we have for preparation. So being at the factory, going over some things from the previous years, but then, doing my own bit with the engineers on the sim, trying to get as ready as possible, watching on boards, all the sort of normal stuff.
And we've got some more upgrades on the car this weekend. How did they feel on the sim?
Yeah, they felt good. We've got a new floor, so it should be a bit of a step. But like George alluded to, it's always hard to know if that correlates 100% to the track. So optimistic, but just going to focus on myself, and we'll see what happens.
Look, final one from me, Arvid. Race 5, with all these gaps in the calendar, you've had time to reflect on how it's gone so far for you this year. What is your summary of your first season?
I think it's been okay. I think there's been some good moments. There's been some difficult moments. which is to be expected, obviously, with, my rookie year. I don't know. I think overall I'm quite positive. I think I've shown what I can do at times, but there's still, areas to work on and stuff. So, I've got confidence in myself, but trying to work on the things I can do better.
All right. Thank you for that. Best of luck this weekend. Now, let's open it to the floor. We'll start with the broadcasters and David.
David Croft, Sky Sports F1. Unsurprisingly, a question to you, George. 20 points off the championship lead. I know we're only on round 5. How big a weekend is this for you? If you don't get the results you want, does that leave an impression going forward, or is there still a long way to go?
It's just another race for me. It's just another race, and it's not even, on my mind, the championship. I know what I'm capable of. I know the speed I've got. Obviously, Miami was a bad weekend. It was a tough weekend for me there last year, and I went to Montreal and had a great weekend. Doesn't mean this year is going to be the same, but I just need to focus on myself, go through my processes as I did in Melbourne, as I did in China, and control what I can control. So, there's really no need to panic at all. And as we said, we're 4 races down, 18 at least to go. And I actually look back on my F2 season, which was obviously the last time I fought for a championship, and I was P6 after 4 races in F2 and about 35 points down. So, at this point, it means nothing.
Thank you, George. Next one. No more from the broadcasters. Let's open this to the written media, please.
Sorry, I was sleeping. Another question to George. George, you were speaking about your updates that you have here, but how do you consider important the upgrades you have also in the software that can help you during your starting procedure?
Well, obviously the starts are a big focus for us because that's clearly our biggest weak point. We know short term it's going to be difficult to make major gains, and we're obviously trying as hard as we can to solve it short term, but there's also some medium term items that we need to make changes to and continue to improve. And of course, race starts, we don't get to practice very often. You can't practice it on the simulator really. You only get, some races you cannot even practice in free practice, the race starts. So, we'll keep trying our best to improve.
Thanks, George. Another one, please.
Yeah, Craig Slater, Sky Sports. Another one for George. You talked a bit about the stop-start nature of this year, and you've had a bit of bad luck as well. In terms of your feel, though, for the car, there's no sense that in any way it doesn't marry with your driving style or anything along those lines?
No, I think it's very circuit dependent, the same way as it was last year. I think everybody has stronger circuits, weaker circuits. And as I said, if I look at it objectively, Miami was the only blip, as it kind of was for me last year as well. So hopefully it's one race out of 22 where it's like that. It has been a bit of a tricky start with a bit of bad luck in China and Japan, and the season could be in a totally different predicament if that was slightly different. So as I said, there's no cause for concern. It's business as usual, and see what this weekend brings. And also going into the European season when we're all in a bit more of a groove. There's some double headers, triple headers at the end of the year. Things shift very quickly.
Thank you for that. Another one.
Hi, George. Guilherme from TV Globo Brazil. Can you break down, please, why this track is so good for you as we saw last year?
Well, I think the last 2 years this track has suited our car more, because we clearly perform better in the cooler conditions. We won in Vegas, we won in Canada. I've been pole here the last 2 years, and I think that was the biggest part of it. Kimi was on the podium here last year as well. We both performed very well. So, the first 3 races of the year, we've obviously won as a team. The 4 races of the year last year, we didn't. Then we get to Canada, we won. So it doesn't guarantee that we'll win again this year. So, and it's just a track I like. I like the flow. I like the sort of medium speed nature of the corners. I enjoy it here.
written media as well. Name and publication, please.
Hi, Angie from Reuters. This is for Pierre. Luis was talking about Arsenal and how they won the championship. How they won the league, but PSG also won their league. And they're about to face each other in the Champions League. What are your opinions on that?
I'm glad we start talking about real stuff. What's my opinion on that? Well, I'm a big PSG fan, and we won the Champions League last year, so I think it's going to be a great game. I've followed a lot of Premier League. For the last few years, Arsenal came very close to winning, and I was happy for them, for the whole team, for the manager to actually do it this season. And yeah, I'll got my weekend sorted for next week after Canada, and I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic game of football. And yeah, I'll be obviously rooting for PSG, and hopefully they can bring a second Champions League.
Thank you for that. Next.
Nicole Meldor, GP Blog. Question to George. George, you just talked about the Nordschleife and watching Max race there in a Mercedes. You also said that you would like to do the race yourself one day. Could you see yourself doing that together with Max as teammates?
Yeah, never say never. Who knows? Yeah, as I said, never say never. Max is obviously one of the best, and I was asked a lot, obviously last year, about being teammates with him, but more in Formula One rather than sharing a seat. But I'm up for it and would relish the opportunity to always go against the best, and that's how I felt when I was teammates with Lewis, and still how I feel about Max. It'd be as any driver, you want to go head to head with the best.
It's a team manager.
Yeah, not sure about that.
Okay, thank you. Next one, please.
Bonjour, Vincent Dessureau, Radio Énergie. Question for George. Except experience, which one of your qualities as a driver do you think could give you the edge in the championship?
I've got to be honest, I'm just looking at myself as my main competitor, and that's what I've done over the last 7 years in my whole Formula One career. I know that if I tick all of my boxes, I know I can beat anybody, and that was the case last year when I was teammates with Lewis, and that was the case when I was teammates with Kimi, and the year before when I was teammates with Lewis. So I'm not looking at my edge over anybody else. I'm looking at how do I get the most out of myself with my engineers, out of the car setup, out of the tyres. I know if I tick all of those boxes, I can win. So that's my goal.
George, I know you're focusing on yourself, obviously, but do you think Kimi has stepped up this year?
I mean, Kimi was exceptionally fast all of last year. A big difference was we were in the mix with a number of other teams, and every single session was a challenge. Even just getting through Q1 last year, there was a lot of pressure, a lot of stress getting into Q3, similar race starts. If we made a bad start last year, we couldn't just recover the 4 or 5 positions that we lost because we didn't have that pace advantage. So, without doubt, he's performing on a really great level, but I knew that was within him always, and I saw it last year. So, he's a fantastic driver.
Thank you. Next one.
Hi, Nicholas from La Presse in Montreal. Question for George. Year after year, how do you measure your progression? Is it only a matter of wins, podiums, results?
Well, I think the beauty in Formula One is every year is different. It's if you look at a tennis player, you're dealing with the same kind of environment, the same racket, same balls, clay, hard court, year after year. So you can really measure that progression. As a driver, this year we've got different tyres, different PU, different cars. You go to every race weekend and the conditions are different. Conditions this weekend are going to be different to the conditions here in Canada 12 months ago. So it's very difficult to measure that progression because the limitation, or let's say the weakness you're trying to improve upon, can change year after year, and 1 year may be your strength, 1 year may be your weakness. So as a driver, I think you just always have to be adaptable to whatever is thrown at you.
Thank you. Next one.
Daniel Valente, The Score. Question for Arvid. So you've been an F1 driver now for about 5 months. Can you just recall your craziest moment so far and what was going through your mind at that moment?
For sure, my craziest moment has to be Melbourne. Just, it was my first race in F1. And then probably, lap one on Melbourne was pretty nuts. I wasn't expecting to be running P3 at one point, racing side by side with Lewis, someone I've sort of looked up to for a long time. So, honestly, my emotions in that moment, it's hard to describe. I mean, there was a big sort of lag. I think it was only sort of start of lap 2 or middle of lap 2 I'd figured out what's actually just happened. That was pretty nuts.
Thank you. Another one, yes, please.
Rodrigo França, Car Magazine Brazil. Question to the three of you. How interested are you in football and the World Cup? What do you think the France, UK, England have a chance to win the World Cup?
It's coming home.
He said it.
Yeah, we'll see about that. And I remind you that what race will it be? Spa?
It's Spa, yeah. Saturday of Spa.
Yeah, let's see.
I know that because...
Let's see which home it comes to, yeah?
Yeah.